the Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Italian Football Podcast, the official podcast of Football Italia. I'm Carlo Garganese, joined as always by Nima Tavallaey. So the new Serie A season is underway. Many of you probably weren't able to watch it legally due to the Serie A TV rights scandal, which is something we will be talking about later on the show. But for those of you who could watch the matches, it was an incredible first weekend of the 2024-25 Serie A season. Pretty much all the big teams struggled and dropped points. Both Milan teams failed to win in two 4-goal thrillers, incredible matches, dramatic injury time goals in both games. So much to talk about in both of those fixtures. The criticism, though, has already started for Paulo Fonseca at Milan after a frankly bizarre starting 11 that he put out. But he isn't the manager that's under the most pressure after the first week end of the season. That is Antonio Conte, who had a nightmare debut for Napoli as they were thrashed 3-0 by Verona. And then in the Sunday nighttime games, both the Rome teams played. Lazio got a good 3-1 win. But Roma also slipped up. They drew. So pretty much all the biggest teams in Serie A slipped up on this first weekend. Of course, Juventus and Atalanta still have to play on Monday. We're recording this before then. We will as well have our usual Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. For all our first-time listeners, this is our free weekly episode that we do every Monday, reviewing the weekend Serie A action and all the biggest talking points in Italian football. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all of our content that we do throughout the week, including a weekly Q&A episode, which we record every Tuesday, where we answer all the questions sent in from our Patreons. Very, very popular show, that. Plus the weekly Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction, and much, much more. Then go to patreon.com/TIFP and become a subscriber for just $2.99 a month plus VAT. You can now also sign up to be a paid subscriber on Spotify. We'll provide the link in the description. It's the same price and same terms. And for all of you that do listen on Spotify, Apple and iTunes podcasts, we'd really appreciate if you give us a 5-star rating. It really, really helps us to grow. And do also subscribe to our YouTube channel, which we're producing a lot of content on there. Some content on there that you can't get elsewhere. Our YouTube page, which we only really started really focusing on about a year ago, it's really been growing massively in the last month. We've now grown to over 3,000 subscribers. So do follow us on there and give us a like on there as well. It really just helps us to grow and do more content for you guys. So big thanks for those that do. Okay, so let's get into today's show. Okay, I'm going to switch this around. I was going to start with the champions Inter, but I think we have to start off with Antonio Conte, Nima, because he had the debut from hell for Napoli. They lost 3-0, got absolutely thrashed. I think Conte warned before the game about just what a job he had on his hands. He was moaning and complaining about the transfer market as he always does, which with any club. But I think after seeing this game, not only he, but I think we will also see it. He has a job on his hands, doesn't he, Nima?
He absolutely does. But I don't. I mean, I understand that he's upset about the situation with Victor Osimhen, that has not been resolved. It's completely blocked. That was what he's moaning about. And he wants Romelu Lukaku. But regardless, I don't understand. You know, I'm glad that he came out and took responsibility, because that's what he did. Let's remember that. He came out and apologized even. He said, I'm the one to blame for this result. I'm the one who's responsible for this. And he apologized to all Napoli fans and Neapolitans, which I think was very important that he did, because even with Buongiorno injured, they got unlucky with Schwitzer getting injured. I mean, there's no there's no excuse whatsoever to fall apart like he did, like Napoli did. That's on him. That's entirely on him. So it's I was very happy to see him kind of just, go off and say, look, he called it melting like snow in the sun is what his players did. That's on him. That's not on anyone else. And it was an unacceptable second half, and he took complete responsibility. But I mean, what I do have to say though, that I do think that there is a point to what he's saying. In the first half, Napoli were the better team. But as soon as Verona had a shot in on target, is when they conceded, and that's just not acceptable. Because
that's a mental thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a mental thing.
First sign of adversity, and you
fall apart completely. Yeah. That's on Antonio Conte. That shows that his approach in how he's handled this situation has not been the right way for this group of players at this particular club. It has worked elsewhere, but here it hasn't worked, and he needs to understand that. And I think he kind of did. And that's why I think he said, as the coach, I take full responsibility. And I think he understands that he can't just hammer them. He needs a little bit of mix of tough love here, not just hammer the players. He needs to also build them up.
I think that's something. I have no doubts Conte will sort. That is where Conte is so very, very strong. Is the man management, the mental side of the game, so that teams. Obviously, they had some mental hang-ups from last season, which haven't been resolved, and that's up to Conte to resolve. And they haven't. We saw in this game that's the same issues are still there. Because, as he said, I thought first half was actually decent from Napoli. That Verona barely got into the Napoli first half. Yeah. It barely got into Napoli's half. Napoli completely controlled the game. They had two big chances. They didn't create anything until those two big chances at the end, but they were two big chances. Lobotka put a shot over. Then Cavara was 1-on-1, and then he went off ill. I think it was an illness at half time, and then everything went wrong. Verona come out strong in the second half. They took the lead just after half time, and then, like Conte said, they completely melted. So I'm not worried about that side of things. I think where Conte definitely has a big job is, on the quality side of things, because there are some clear gaps, also because of the blockage in the transfer market and not being able to bring in the players. But the team as it is now the attack is so thin. It's literally just Kvara at the moment. With Osimhen frozen out, there's nothing in the attack. Politano, I don't think really suits Conte's system. Simeone's not that man. Raspadori, I'm not sure if he's that man either. They are lacking very much. I mean, when your only real attacking threat in this game is Anguissa from centre midfield, that says it all about the issues you have in attack. So they absolutely have to bring in attacking players. I know Neres is gonna come in, and that deal's done already, but they need more. They need more zones. They obviously need to get Lukaku in. And if they don't get Lukaku in, they have to start playing Osimhen. They probably need another attacker. They're very, very short in attack, I think, for Conte's system.
For me, this is a midfield issue. This is straight up
that as well. Issue. Yeah, that as
well. This is not an attack issue. He has decided in his head that the reason why he may have failed elsewhere is because 3-5-2 doesn't work. He needs to play a 3-4-2-1. The problem when Antonio Conte gets these ideas in his head is that he will hammer it home if it costs his job, the club, everyone their sanity and everything else. The quicker he understands that he will win the Serie A, he can win the Serie A with this group of players if he plays a 3-5-2, the better off him and Napoli will be, and the better off Napoli will be buying players that suit that 3-5-2 system. The 3-4-2-1 does not work in the Serie A. It's as simple as that. It worked. It helped him in Chelsea. It helped him when he wants to play in leagues that are more high intensity, when he plays competitions that are higher intensity, much more open, much more attacking. The 3-4-2-1 does not work in the Serie A. It just doesn't. Unless you are okay being Fiorentina and Atalanta and conceding lots of goals. But if you're Napoli, if you're Inter, if you're Milan, if you're Juve, that is just not acceptable. you're too open. And he
Yeah,
understood this before when he switched from a 4-2-4 early on in his career to the 3-5-2. Now, my issue is Lobotka and Anguissa need a third man in midfield. It was as clear as day. If you look at those goals, the reason why they are so carved open, the reason why there's no balance is because the midfield, those two, are the ones that everyone else looks at to see where they should be positionally, and they are in no man's land right now. And that's all on Conte.
Yeah, I
All
mean,
on Conte.
I think there is some truth to what you're saying, especially with regards to Lobotka not being suited to a two-man centre midfield. He doesn't have.
He can't play in a two-man centre midfield.
I don't think
in a
he's. I mean, I
three-man.
don't think he's a Conte player anyway. But yeah, in a two-man midfield, you are when he has ground to cover, especially on transitions and stuff. He's just not suited to that style. But aside from the tactical issues that Conte will have to resolve. Regardless of the formation, I think that they need to bring players in because there's lack of quality here. There's gaps here. I know Buongiorno was out, but the defense, is it strong enough personnel wise? The fullbacks. I mean, Spinazzola was the only one that made his debut of the new signings. He looked like an ex-player yesterday. Every single time he tried to take on his man, he just didn't have the pace or the ability to get away from him from his man. And then Mazzocchi on the other side. I mean, we know how important wing backs are in the Antonio Conte system. Spinazzola at his age, Mazzocchi at his age playing as wing backs. These are question marks. And then you look at the players that they're looking to bring in. I mean, if they do manage to sell Osimhen and they're bringing in Neres, Billy Gilmore, Scott McTominay, and then Romelu Lukaku is another issue altogether. But are these players? Are these really players to win you to try and win you the Scudetto? Are they a level high enough? These players, I mean, they're outcasts. So it's.
Well, he has done it before. I mean, again, he turned Victor Moses into an international class wing back. I've seen him win Scudetti with Padoin and Giaccherini. I mean,
but they also had, I think, better players around them, top players in those teams.
But he did the same thing
better than what Napoli have. I mean,
but the problem again is that he played a 3-5-2. His system, in order to function, he needs balance in all areas of the pitch. That's the biggest problem Antonio Conte has everywhere he goes, calibrating the right balance to play his very system-based football. It's obvious that with Napoli, that doesn't work. Now he's bringing in Neres, who's a winger. He's got Raspadori, who functions better in a two-man attack. I'm wondering at some point De Laurentiis' patience is also going to be.
Well, you don't sign Neres and play a 3-5-2.
Well, that's exactly what I mean.
We can forget about that. I just think that I just think personnel. I think Conte has, regardless of the tactics and everything else, the mentality. I think Conte has one hell of a job on, just also because of the quality of players. If these are the players that Napoli are bringing in, then that's a sign of where Napoli is. Also a sign of where Serie A is. You've got all that money for Osimhen, up to 100 million, and you're spending that money on Billy Gilmore, David Neres, Scott McTominay, and another outcast Lukaku. I mean, there's a bigger issue there away from Napoli. That's concerning for me.
No, I think that's got to do with that's because those are the character. Look, they're buying players that Conte wants to fit his system, the character players. This is he did it at Inter too. He sacrificed Sandro Tonali for Arturo Vidal at the fag end of his career. He did the same thing when he wanted Kolarov because he was hell bent on having a left centre back who can play the diagonal ball, and then ended up costing Inter lots of money because he was completely useless at that point in his career. This is what Conte does. He had to have Ashley Young.
The quality of the player,
Ashley Young. Alexander Kolarov. Well, I'm talking about Alexander Kolarov and Arturo Vidal when he brought them in at the time he did. They barely had Serie B level quality at that time. This is what he does. He wants characters and players that suit his system. He gives that to the sporting director.
But he also in those teams also bought top players. They also bought real quality players. Like Lukaku at his peak.
Yeah, at his peak. But that's what I'm saying.
Or
Lukaku,
Barella, these are top players. With the Napoli side.
And then he was still complaining that non ci sono tanti soldini after the same summer.
Yeah, absolutely. But what I'm saying is, with Napoli are not bringing in these type of quality players. They're bringing in real, kind of second-rate players, and that's, for me, that's concerning as a bigger talking point. But we can get to that at the end of the market. But I do want to praise Verona though, because
I thought they were
Paolo
fantastic.
Zanetti. This was Paolo Zanetti's debut, and he did really well. But what I really want to praise Verona for is their scouting team. Their scouting network is absolutely has gone under the radar. What an incredible job! I don't know who's in charge of that scouting network, but they deserve to be
Sean
named.
Soliano is a sporting director who has been there not too long, but he is a fantastic sporting director. He's
Well, the team he has, Soliano, and the team that he has working for him, what a job they have. Because with absolute pennies, the club is in financial crisis. They nearly went bankrupt early this year. They basically sold their entire squad in January and brought in a bunch of complete unknowns. And that's basically what they've been doing for the last year or so. They've been bringing in unheralded, unknown players from minor leagues, from small leagues, many of them from the Dutch league. They've got an incredible scouting team out in Holland. I mean, just from the Netherlands alone, Tijani Noslin, who had a really good game for Lazio yesterday, Suslov Ngonj, who obviously was at Napoli, gone to Napoli now and played and came on for Napoli yesterday. And now this new guy, Livramento, who they brought from the Dutch second division, Maastricht, complete unknown, and he scores on his Verona debut to give them the lead. And then the lad that came on, Mosquera, who scored twice as a substitute against Napoli, they brought him from the Colombian league. He played on loan at Atletico Bucaramanga, which doesn't sound like a football team. I don't know, what does it sound like, Nima?
No comment.
but I mean, it sounds like a party of Silvio Berlusconi party or something.
Yeah,
Come to a Bucaramanga party with me. But yeah, it's he scores twice. I mean, these are complete. I mean, where the hell they find these guys? I mean, what a scouting network.
But Sean Soliano has worked. His career started when he took over Varese in Eccellenza, which is the 6th tier of Italian football, and he brought them to the Serie B. And then, of course, he was at Verona. He's been at Verona before. He was the reason his scouting network. He brought in Iturbe. He brought in Luca Toni, who became the oldest capocannoniere winner and Verona's first capocannoniere winner in the season at Serie A. So this is an environment and piazza he knows very well. And this is what he does. He's absolutely fantastic with the shoestring budgets, finding scouting players that work in particular systems, and at small clubs, and then sell them at high profit, and then continue to rebuild. I mean, that's Sean Soliano. I'm not surprised at all. He is typically one of these fantastic sporting directors who is just unbelievable. It's typical Italian sporting directorship at its best. He had an interesting career as well as a player. He played for Napoli, but I mean, I remember him from the 90s playing as a central defender for Torino. But yeah, no, this is a very, very, this is what he does, and his career trajectory went a bit down after he went to Palermo because he couldn't work with Zamparini. Surprise there. But he was destined for, because he had a really, really, his trajectory was going right up. He's only 53 years old, and I wouldn't put it past, maybe now it's a little bit too late for him to go to a bigger club, but it's, if he does really well here at Hellas Verona and they do something fantastic, I don't see how,
I think he's already proven himself just with all that list of players that I've named there, and there's others as well. But I mean, that shows that his scouting team know how to identify players from small leagues, and because I thought it was a miracle what Verona did at the end of last season.
I'm a little bit surprised that De Laurentiis appointed Manna and not Petracchi. Because if you want Antonio Conte to be happy, if you bring in his best friend who knows how to handle Conte, who he loves. I mean, he's openly spoken about how good friends they are and how much he loves him. And we've also seen Petracchi do well before at other clubs. But of course, Petracchi is also a strong character, and De Laurentiis needs someone who can maybe be a bit more diplomatic between Conte and himself, as opposed to someone who's a little bit of a head case as well, like the rest of them. But I mean, now it is what it is. I thought Manna's comments on Sky Sport was very calm, very
back
on
this
Sky Sport
page.
Italia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that he said about how, look, Osimhen has contract left. He's going to stay if he can't be sold. We're working to make him happy. And I think that's the right way to do it. It's just a very awkward period until the end of the Mercato.
Yeah, I mean, we said
that
before,
they just have to go through.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how...
But I'm not worried about... Look, before people talk about, how could you say that they are a Scudetto candidate? I still stand by that. There's no doubt about that. One game, look, it's 38 games. One game, bad loss to Hellas Verona doesn't change that. Buongiorno will come back. And I look at it like this. He will either have Victor Osimhen or Romelu Lukaku up front. Napoli's attack will be fine. The problem is when this man realizes that he needs to play with a middle three. Lobotka and Anguissa does not work together. They don't have any balance. Lobotka doesn't have the engine in him. He has other qualities that work for Conte, similarly to what Brozovic did in the sense that he's a very calm and patient passer. But he cannot run. Marcelo Brozovic runs more than any human being has ever run on a football pitch. Lobotka does not. That's the problem. And he needs someone to run for him. That's what he needs. And he needs to find that player. And I know that he's gonna keep this is Conte when he's at his most annoying. He's gonna do this whole square peg round hole thing until it doesn't work, and then he play a 3-5-2, and then by then it'll be too late. And it's just
Well, anyway, the positive for Conte is that all the other big teams slipped up at the weekend, so there wasn't much damage done in terms of points. But because the champions, the Conte's former team Inter, also did not win. They drew 2-2 in an absolute thriller against Genoa. The best way to describe Inter's performance, Nima, for me, was sluggish and defensive blunders. I think that sums up.
That's exactly what it was. It's an Inter that were tired mentally and physically. You could say that the preseason that they've had this season, which was more this summer, which has been far more intense because it's a 11-month season for Inter with 5 competitions. That has taken its toll on them. It's clear that Inzaghi and the team have decided to up the workload and work more and more intensely. And that has obviously, we've seen lots of players fall victim to that. Zielinski, Taremi, and so on, and other players who've been injured. Bastoni's had a slight knock too. But, this is what you do during preseason to build yourself up so that you can handle a long season. They all looked a bit, Lautaro looked slow, tired. They all looked, except for Thuram, who looked very fresh. But the rest of them looked really, really tired. And that's kind of what it was. And also the defensive errors, which we never seem to do. Jan Sommer just lost his mind. I don't understand why he just doesn't tip that ball over the bar. I don't understand why he has to hold.
He had a shocker. It wasn't just that. He had a shocking game. He was kicking. Did at least 2 kicks straight to Genoa forwards. As well. Yeah, very unlike him.
Yeah, no, he was not. I mean, he saved a penalty. He was a bit unlucky there, but no, I think for me it was Inter. This was an Inter in still in preseason tempo, and that's the problem. But again, look, Genoa is a bit of a bogey team for Inter. They've 3 consecutive draws to them. They haven't beaten them in 4 or 5 years away, I should say. Last season 1-1, season before they were in Serie B, but the season before that, goalless draw. So this is a difficult team for Inter to face. But I think, so for me, I mean, I look at it like, if I look at the positive things, I look at Thuram, who was absolutely fantastic. His finishing looks better than ever before.
Can he reach 20 goals this season?
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I think he's going to score more goals in the Serie A this season for Inter than Lautaro is. I think he's going to be the top goal scorer for Inter in the Serie A.
Okay.
He looks. I think, unfortunately, this might be the last season we see of Marcus Thuram at Inter. I think this is the season where he has an absolutely explosion, scores 20-25 goals in the league alone, and somebody comes in with 100 million or something like that, and then that's it. Unfortunately, because he's got that clause, doesn't he? So that's unfortunately where I think this is. But yeah, no, he's going to be very, very important, and he looks so complete. As a striker, I think the thing that I've always been impressed with him is he's very technical. He's good at beating his man, dribbling 1v1. He's quick. Good in the air, great shot. But the problem has been the clinical finishes, the lack thereof. Well, this time around, we saw two very clinical finishes. I mean, the second goal was a goal poacher's goal. And the first goal for me, yes, magical header, fantastic movement. But Barella's cross, that first time cross, that's what I want to see from Barella this season. I want to see Barella further up the pitch. I want Barella to be the guy that everything comes from. And we saw that he did. I mean, everything Inter attacked with, because Di Marco was having a shocker. Matteo Darmian doesn't offer anything up front. It all came from Barella. Everything went through Barella. Either the secondary assist, the primary assist, everything went through Barella. He's the key to unlocking Inter's attack. And it was nice to see from an Inter perspective that he was able to do that. But I know a lot of people are upset, Inter fans, but for me, I look at the reaction after the goal. Inter completely dominated Genoa after going one goal down, quickly equalized, took the lead. We're unlucky not to finish the game off, offside goals and this and that. But other than that, it was a good performance, I think, given where you are in the season.
Well, I think that maybe Inter didn't create as much as they normally would, and they should. But obviously, first game of the season, this happened. The biggest disappointment for me with Inter was definitely the defensive blunders. I mean, Sommer, of course, then Bisek, obviously on the penalty with the handball. But also, I thought that Inter didn't defend really quite basic attacks from the very few basic attacks that Genoa launched in this game well at all. The high balls into the box, there was too much chaos. Every time a cross came in or a long ball was thrown into the Inter penalty area, it wasn't defended at all well. And that was a little bit concerning for me. Looking from the outside, because this Genoa attack really had nothing at all. I mean, Genoa have no attackers. They sold them both, which we'll come to when we talk about Genoa. And this was a team that shouldn't have caused Inter any problems. And really, Genoa didn't do anything. They didn't create anything to cause any trouble.
I disagree with that. I think Gilardino, this is what I wanted to talk about this.
But my point, we'll talk about Gilardino in a minute. My point is that, it was basically very agricultural, high balls into the box, putting pressure on the Inter defense, and I don't think that they coped with that very well. That's my point, and that's the concern that I had for Inter.
I don't think I understand what you're saying, but I don't agree with that. They had problems there. I think the problem was they didn't look switched on. Normally, in Inter under Inzaghi is very switched on. They know what they do. They know what they need to do. They know where they need to go. They know who does what, because it's a very fluid style in both phases. Here it looked sluggish, it looked tired, it looked a bit rusty. And I think the reason why he played Jan Bisek is because Bisek has had an excellent preseason. You have to start a player in form. But Bisek made, as Inzaghi said, he was not very lucid at the end. Poco lucido, he called him. And that's very important to Inzaghi. So Bisek will now be given the Inzaghi treatment. I don't think we'll see him until October, November earliest. After that. That's just how Inzaghi works, usually anyway, based on previous behavior. But I'm not too worried about that, because I don't think it's a structural problem. I think it's more to do with them not being switched on. And it was a good kick up the backside. But I really do want to talk about Genoa, because Alberto Gilardino has got this group of players who it's not a very good team. Let me put it to you this way. It's a very, I mean, the way that he lost both of his attackers, Gudmundsson and Retegui, and he's having to pick up these other players who are not very good. Junior Messias, God bless. I mean, it's the way that he structured them, to the way that they build up, the way that they defend. I think Gilardino is the next big thing in Italian football in terms of coaches. This season is going to be, I expect him to go the Thiago Motta route, the De Zerbi route, whatever you want to call it. I think he's got a big future ahead of him. because also the way that his teams always react as well. They never lose their heads. They never melt like snowflakes in the sun, to use a Conte phrase.
No.
It rarely happens with his teams. And tactically they're solid and compact. And I think that's and also of course his career, he's been at big clubs, he's won the World Cup. So no, I was really, really, really impressed by Gilardino.
I was as well. This is all on Gilardino. The fact that Genoa got a point out of this game. They had no business getting a result in this game with the team that they put out, with the preparation that they had for this game, with in the last week having Retegui and Goodmanson sold and no replacements that were able to play in this game. I know Pinamonti was signed, but he wasn't available for this game. Gilardino's been let down by his club in the market, and he still manages to work out a way to get a draw in this game. Nothing in attack at all. I mean, he's working with Macias, who isn't an attacker anyway. He's a winger, and Vitinha, who had an absolute shocker in this game.
Awful.
And they still somehow, and like you said, the heart that his teams show, and the fights that they show, and maximising everything and playing as a team, and playing until the end, never say die attitude that they have. Gilardino teams really do have spirit, don't they? And so he deserves so much praise. And the Gilardino's record, can I just say, Gilardino's record against big teams in Serie A is absolutely out of this world. Last season, his record against the big teams, he drew against Inter, drew against Milan, unbeaten against Juventus, win and a draw against Bologna, unbeaten against Napoli, beat Roma, beat Lazio, and then he starts this season with a draw against the champions. I mean, that's an unbelievable record.
No, look, it's the maturity too. Like in Italy, if you want to see a big coach, the biggest coaches are the coaches that show tactical maturity, that show a cool head in crises, and their teams show fighting spirit, and that they're tactically and structurally sound. Gilardino ticks all of those boxes, and has done throughout his tenure at Genoa. And for me, another exam passed, to use another Italian football phrasing, was this week when you lose both of your starting strikers, and the club is in turmoil in the sense that the fans are furious. 25,000 season tickets sold. They were expecting a fantastic season. They don't have any attackers. They signed Andrea Pinamonti, who's a Serie B striker at best, and they're looking to bring another one in. But the reaction and the sticking to the game plan, and how he's able to transmit that negative energy into something positive and fight to give them something to build off of the season. That's the kind of things that will have him coaching a big club soon. That's just how it is. And of course, he comes from the right pedigree as well. I mean, he was a striker at Milan. He won the Champions League with Milan. He won the World Cup with Italy. He has the right pedigree.
He certainly does. Talking of Milan, though, Gilardino's former club, they were also involved, just like Inter, in a 4-goal thriller against Torino. Paulo Fonseca's first official match as well. And he has got in, I believe, rightfully so, a lot of criticism for this. For me, this result, this failure to win, is all on Fonseca. And it's somewhat surprising because although there was a lot of opposition to his appointment at the time, Milan have looked really, really good in pre-season. They've had some quite prestigious results against big teams in pre-season, and there was quite a lot of optimism coming into the season as a result of that. Then they play against Torino, and just frankly bizarre starting 11 choices from Fonseca in this game, playing Benacer over Reinders, playing Jovic over Morata.
But weren't there, if I can just ask, just to play devil's advocate, wasn't there fitness issues though? Because when I've spoken to some people, I spoke to many people who cover Milan and follow Milan, they were like, well, he had to because there was fitness issues for all of those players. They didn't have 90 minutes in them.
Well, maybe they didn't, but he could have taken them off if they didn't have 90 minutes, and then start the game with them and take them off after 60 minutes.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But I mean, the big one for me was Makers at left back. Whether Teo doesn't have 90 minutes in his legs or whatever, to start Makers at left back is just an absolutely bizarre choice. What the hell is that about? And it completely failed. He was a complete flop in that position.
Well, he shouldn't play that.
I mean, Pulisic as a number 10, maybe in time he could play. I'm not totally convinced of that. He's a natural fit for that role, but maybe he can. He still needs to win me over in that. But all of those choices, none of them worked. All his starting choices, they all backfired. And in the first half, Milan were just way off it. There was no intensity. There was everything that we saw in pre-season. It was gone. It was completely gone. And I put that down to just kind of like Fonseca just making these unnecessary changes, unnecessary gambles, playing Makers at left back, just completely unnecessary, inexplicable. And these are the kind of choices that made everybody be opposed to Fonseca getting the job in the first place, because they're just inexplicable. It's just something. Why would you do these changes? Why would you make these choices? So this is all on Fonseca. The positive is, as Morata said at the end of the game, is that Milan showed fight. They were much better once they made the substitutions. Once Morata came on, especially, and
he showed why he will be so important, and why we those of us who we said this is a very good signing by Milan. Morata showed exactly why he will be important for Milan.
He almost won a penalty.
He makes those around him better. That is what he does. He is so good at making players around him better. And he's done it throughout his career, and I think he's going to be very, very important for Milan. And for me, I think there's two ways of looking at this, really. Yes, okay, points dropped at home to Torino. That's fair. That's not good for Milan, or Milan, who clearly, according to Fonseca and everyone else, they want to win the Scudetto. That's what they've said. Their objective is to win the Scudetto. A draw at home to Torino is a minor setback. But the reaction is what I'm looking at here. The season is very early. I mean, it started very, very early because of the long season that it is. So they're kind of not, the teams aren't really fully prepared, most of them. And I think that's why you saw so many draws on the weekend. But I look at this and I say, it's not the end of the day. It's not the end of the world. But what I do like, and what I think Milan will definitely build on, is the reaction. Because again, same as with Inter, it's the reaction you want. This early on in the season, when you've just had a difficult, a hard preseason, you're tired physically, it takes time to get into match fitness, so to speak, and to calibrate the right level between match fitness and training and being fresh physically, right? But the mental freshness is or the mental reaction is the difference between Milan, Inter, and Napoli. Napoli fell apart, snowflakes melting in the sun. Milan and Inter did not. Mm-hmm. And that is what both Milan and Inter will take from this, and what Antonio Conte is the reason why Conte apologized and accepted complete responsibility. So I was very impressed with how Milan reacted.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And both the substitutes scored as well. They played to the 96th minute. Okafor obviously got that equaliser in the 96th minute. I agree. And I saw enough from Milan. I see enough quality. I see enough depth.
Oh, absolutely.
They created enough. They created lots of chances in this game.
They were all over. They were all over Torino.
I've seen enough from Milan to suggest that I think they will be a Scudetto challenger. And like you said, it's early and everybody slipped up. So there's nothing. Let's not panic. My only point is that these inexplicable starting 11 choices from Fonseca, these are the kind of choices that demonstrate why people were against him. coming in.
I get what you're saying,
That's the
and I
point I'm
just want to
making.
say,
He's the kind of he cannot
yeah,
keep making these.
I hear what you're saying, and I kind of agree. I'm just saying that there are mitigating circumstances, and I don't want to crucify him too much about it. I just want to wait. I want to wait a little bit more. If we're at match day 15, 16, and he does these crazy things for no reason, then that's a different animal completely. But I think match day 1, given the situation, I'm gonna chill for a bit on that. I'm just gonna say the reaction is what I think is the most positive thing. The fact that the substitutions all paid off, the 3 of them coming on pretty much in the same minute, and they all are the reason why Milan get a point and could actually go on and win this if the game was 1 minute longer. I think Milan will score that third goal. They had this kind of zest about them that was just, they were fiery or hot. And that was in that shows to me they're a united team. They believe in what they're doing, and that's important. That's very important at this early stage. But we have to talk about Torino. Wow.
I think
Wow.
first half very good first half. Just didn't do a very good job at seeing the game out. I think at the end, but I think they've showed enough here that they will be fine this season. They've got enough goals in them. Zapata, I think, will have another good season. I think he will guarantee goals. But they
No, but that
do.
midfield, though, I
Yeah.
have to wax lyrical over Ivan Ilic, Samuel Ricci. I mean, those two together, it puts a smile on my face to watch them play
Well,
football.
let's hope that Richie can push on this season, because we know we need an Italian midfielder, don't we? We need a new Italian central midfielder to come through. So
Yeah, no, we do.
let's
And
hope that he can build on this now.
no, they were wonderful. I thought they were wonderful. Paolo Vanoli, to me, it looked like it was Ivan Juric coaching, and that makes me happy. That makes me happy. If they're going to play like that, because they're so structurally sound, they're so difficult to break down. They press you, they annoy you, they chase the life out of you in midfield. They never give you a second. And going forward, Ilic and Ricci are quality players. Bellanova's quick as hell. He looked very fresh as well. No, they're going to be fine.
But
My
he would do.
question
He
is still,
didn't play any games. Didn't play at the Euros, did he?
well, yeah, he's been rested. No, but he looked really good. And up front, Sanabria, Zapata, like you said, they'll get their goals. But uh, if Paolo Vanoli can get Jan Caramo to stop being a clown and actually function in a football system, that is a potential fantastic player. He can score lots of goals if he understands that it's football he's playing and not futsal or FIFA Street or whatever else he thinks he's doing, because he had a chance to kill off this game and score the third goal, but instead he wants to showboat at the San Siro. And that's been his problem his entire career. Caramo is too much of circus antics. Oh, look at me, I can juggle the ball and I can dribble and I can do this. You need to be concrete. You need to kill off games. It's about goals and assists. Yes, skill is fantastic, but if you're Torino at the San Siro, you're 2 goals up, you need to kill off the game. And that's why you're being brought off. And if Vanoli can get that out of Caramo and get him to mature and be more concrete and cynical, to use an Italian expression, then they have a fantastic attacker on their hands. Because individually, skill-wise, Caramo is very good. We've seen it. We've seen him do magical things. The problem is he's a little bit too much of he's got this kind of clown aspect to his game, which is just frustrating to watch. But they were really, really solid and structurally very sound. I really liked what I saw from Torino. And again, Ilic, Ricci midfield. I'm not missing very many Torino games this summer, this season.
Nima still loves Torino, even though his god.
Yeah, they broke
Ivan
my
Juric-
heart.
Ivan
Yeah, they
Juric.
broke my heart. Even though they betrayed me and sent Ivan Juric packing, they're still going to be a good team to watch.
Yeah, for sure. Another team that we hope will be good to watch this season is Roma, who have had one of the biggest transfer markets. Let's say so far, and there's still a lot to go, as we'll come to in a second. This game wasn't great until Paulo Dybala came on, and then it was just an unbelievable match. The last kind of like 20 minutes was there was just no midfield in this game. It was just end to end, chance after chance for both teams. Both teams hitting the bar. Really, the only way to describe this game really is there was a game before Dybala came on, and there was a game after Paulo Dybala came on.
Well, yeah, it's that's what it is, and I know we're going to talk about Roma trying to sell Dybala in a minute, but to me, it's just the fact that it's so typical Roma, isn't it? That behind the scenes, you try to sell Dybala because of if he plays 15 games, he gets an automatic contract extension, or his wages double almost. They don't want that, and he's 31. They want to bring in some money for him. Blah blah. Like, do you know what I mean? And then that gets leaked. They deny it because Rome is a very special place. I mean, if you listen to the interview I did, the Roma Mercato deep dive I did with Andrea Di Carlo, for me the most interesting part of that interview was when I said, "Where's Dybala going to play?" And his reaction to that was like a typical Roman. It doesn't matter. He's Paulo Dybala. He plays wherever he wants to play. So that's the Roman reaction to Paulo Dybala. He is their star. He is their talisman. He's their jewel. And Roma trying to get rid of him has pissed off the fans to no avail, and so they Roma were damage controlling, putting out statements that we didn't even know that he was negotiating with Saudi Arabia, which is, I'm sorry, I don't believe that. That's nonsense. And so then he's on the bench. Roma look very sterile. He comes on. Everything looks good. He livens up. He brings his jolt of life to Roma. And now, they still don't manage to win. But what do you do with Paulo Dybala? How do you diffuse this potentially nuclear meltdown situation? Because
it's the question is really, even more so after this game, is should Roma sell Dybala? I mean, we know there are financial reasons, which you just touched upon there, that if he plays those 15 games, his contract is currently set to run out in 2025. If he plays those 15 games, he'll get an automatic renewal, and then that means it goes on to 2026. He's on a huge salary, 16 million gross this season, and that will be the same the following season. So that's a lot of money. That will have to be paid that Roma can't really afford. No Italian teams can afford those kind of contracts anymore. But there's also, and I think we saw that also in this game, there are tactical reasons as well, which De Rossi has indirectly hinted on a number of occasions, even at the end of last season. Like, how do you fit Dybala into the team? And I think that was shown in this game even before Dybala. I think the biggest challenge that De Rossi will have this season will be finding a system for these players, finding the right system to make this work for Roma. I think De Rossi secretly deep down thinks that if he can sell Dybala, bring in a winger, maybe it's Chiesa, maybe it's somebody else on the left wing, and then have Dovbyk in the middle, Sule on the right, and then a new left winger, that he thinks that tactically that is the best way to be successful with Roma. And I think theoretically, I think he's probably right. The problem is, again, and we saw that again in this game, it comes down to actual quality. We can talk about tactics till the cows come home. What's the right formation? What's the right system? Just like we did with Conte. And it's all true. The problem is, at the end of the day, if you've got to have the quality at the same time. And we saw in this game that the Roma have a certain quality when Dybala's not on the field. And then there's a massive leap of quality when Dybala is on the field, and they start creating chances. He put one on a Dovbyk missed an open goal thanks to Dybala with an incredible cross. He put it on a plate for him, and he headed against the bar. I mean, Dybala gives that race of quality. Yes, he tactically unbalances the team, and that's probably why Cagliari had chances as well to win the game after that.
Well, that's exactly it.
So it's, for me, it's a very difficult. It's a very difficult question to answer here on whether Roma should sell Dybala. And then if they do, they have to make sure they bring in a player with a lot of quality, and because they cannot go 4-3-3 with Zalewski or El Shaarawy as the left winger. They're going to struggle.
They will. They're definitely going to sign another winger if
it has to be good enough. That's the point.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Is it Jeremy Boga? Is it Loriente? I mean, like, these are the players being touted.
Exactly.
Chiesa costs too much. Again, fine mercato things with Chiesa, because I think something will happen with Chiesa towards the end of the mercato. I just cannot envision Giuntoli messing that up too, in the sense that he goes into the season and sees out his contract and Juve lose him on a free transfer, especially with, now that PSG are looking to sign Lookman and Atalanta are on Nico Gonzalez.
Oh, good.
So, yeah, I mean, we will get to that.
That just depresses me. But we'll talk about that on Thursday.
Yeah,
that depresses me.
But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But my point is simply that this is so... This is such a Roma thing. This entire situation is such a Roma situation. It's like, when you look back, the magical way in which he was unveiled, and how he won everyone in Rome over, and he's a superstar, and they love him, and all that stuff. And then De Rossi comes in, and De Rossi is a demigod in Rome, and now he wants to move away from Dybala. The financial situations, all of that. It's like you go from that unveiling to Dybala becoming a problem and the fan base being angry. It's just one of those Roma situations that are very, very difficult. That's such a difficult puzzle to solve. And financially, I don't think there's nothing to discuss. Dybala, Roma have to get rid of Dybala. It's as simple as that. I mean, again, Andrea Di Carlo explained it to us. Roma is now looking at clubs that create the players that create value for them. And if that means sacrificing Dybala, then so be it, right? So financially, there's no discussion. Tactically and quality, I think tactically they have to move away from Dybala anyway, because he's over 30. But the quality, where is Roma going to find quality of Dybala's level? They're just not going to. They're just not going to. They don't have that money. And so that's where it kind of becomes this conundrum where you're like, what do you do? And regardless of what you do, someone's going to be very unhappy.
No. I mean, put it this way. If you've mentioned two names there, Boga and Loriente. Now, I don't know whether it will be one of those. It could be someone else. But let's just pretend that Roma sell Dybala, and they bring in Boga or Loriente. Do you think a more tactically balanced Roma with a front line of, let's say, Boga, Loriente, Dobbik, Sule as the front three, would do better than a more tactically unbalanced Roma attack with Sule, Dybala, and Dobbik? However, they'd managed to get that to work. I'm not sure they would, but do you know what I mean? What team do you think? Which team do you think would get more points this season and do better? I'd probably say the Dybala team with Dybala.
I don't know. I honestly don't know, because at the same time, I want De Rossi to try to get in Baldanzi into this system. I want to see him.
Well, he said, De Rossi, that Baldanzi is going to be playing as a Mezzala.
Good. I'm happy about that. I'm happy about that. I think a 4-3-3. Then I'd like to see Pellegrini play as a regista. Then, I'd like to see him do that. I'd love to see him play Pellegrini as a regista, Baldanzi as a Mezzala, and then bring someone in like Andrea Di Carlo said to us, someone with physical presence to kind of run and protect them both in the middle of the pitch. Enzo Lefebvre is not exactly, might not be that guy, but we'll see. But they're going to need different options for different games. But no, I think Baldanzi as a Mezzala is I'm fine with that. Just what happens with Pellegrini, because I don't think Pellegrini is a number 10 or as a left wing or inverted left wing. He just doesn't have the pace for it, and I think it would be a waste of time to put him there.
Yeah.
I do think that you can play Baldanzi and Pellegrini together, but given that Pellegrini lacks pace, the only natural solution for me is to play him as a regista.
Yeah, for sure. But to be honest with you, this could all become a moot point, because Dybala could just reject Saudi Arabia, and he's done that before. We've seen him do it at Juventus. If he doesn't want to move,
when he's happy, he's the kind of person who's very, when he's happy somewhere, money and
no, absolutely, and I'm sure, and if you listen to most Juventus fans, they'll say that Sabatini owns him, his girlfriend or wife now. I think they got married now, or they're about to get married.
So. I'm not
sure.
Yeah,
I think they were getting married this summer. But anyway, yeah, Sabatini, who is actually the niece of the famous Argentine tennis player,
Gabriela Sabatini.
Gabriela Sabatini, yeah, it's Gabriela Sabatini's niece. if Sabatini doesn't want to go to Saudi Arabia, he won't go to Saudi Arabia. So
No.
they'll have to try and convince her somehow if they want to sell Dybala. It's definitely going to be a big week and a half for Roma for sure in terms of determining their season. Lazio though. More positive for Lazio. They get a good win, a good 3-1. I was watching this game and I thought they did pretty well actually. We obviously have to take into account the fact that Venezia, I think, are definitely the worst team in Serie A this season. I find it very, very difficult to see them staying up, and I don't think we can even really criticise Di Francesco that much either, because I just don't think there's the quality in this team to stay up. I think they're going to concede a lot of goals this season. Their defence really doesn't look good. They made horrible mistakes on all 3 goals, actually. But if we take it from Lazio point of view, they can only beat who's in front of them. I thought that they looked pretty good. I was impressed by the new signings. Noslin, who came in from Verona, he played as a right attacker in the 3. Very direct, taking his man on, beating his man, good pace, putting balls into the box. He did really well, Noslin. But I was also very impressed. I knew nothing about this guy, Dele Bashiru, in midfield, who's come in. Very, very good, debut, the Nigerian. Very powerful, bursting through, joining the attack, lots of energy. Very, very impressive debut from Dele Bashiru. Very, very impressive. I'm excited to see. It's the first time I've ever seen him, so I'm very, very interested to see how he does against better teams going forward. But this Lazio team, the attack looks better than maybe we gave credit for them. Zaccagni coming off a good Euros on the left, he was good. Noslin on the right. Castellanos has had a good pre-season. He scored one of the goals of pre-season, and he should have scored a hat-trick in this game. He hit the post, had lots of chances. Good
he was
movement.
unlucky. He was unlucky, but he looks very energetic. He looks very fired up and in great condition. I think Lazio impressed me. The reaction, again, going a goal down, reacting well, systematically, never panicking, but slowly but surely, systematically working themselves into the game, equalizing quickly. Then, the penalty, and then see the game out. Baroni, it's not surprising that I think he'll do well. I mean, again, this is the reboot button at Lazio.
Yeah, I think what was noticeable about this Lazio team is they've got a lot more pace and energy and intensity in their team. They've got rid of a lot of the older players, and there's a lot more legs in this Lazio team, which is strangely something that Tudor wanted. But
if you look at it, lots of signings. Tavares, Boulaidia, they didn't play. And Castrovilli just came on the 87th minute. So there is Isaksen in the 77th. So there is more to add.
Players with legs, all of those players you mentioned. Yeah, there's going to be a lot more energy in this Lazio team. And this season, we shouldn't read too much on it. It's Venezia; they are a really bad team. But I was quite lots of positives for Lazio anyway. Let's say that. The other Serie A matches quickly. So Parma, Fiorentina 1-1. Parma back in Serie A as well. Parma will be fine this season. Absolutely fine. They should have won this game. They were the better team. They should have killed off the game before half time. Dennis Mann, lovely goal, lovely player, lovely left foot. They have attack. The attack has goals in them. Mann, Mihaila, the Romanians. The youngster Boni at centre forward is a beast. By the way, very strong at holding it up. Fiorentina's defence looks leaky, as Nicola Mizul told us in our podcast. Pongracic, awful debut, horrific.
What the hell was that?
Awful. He was getting done. He was getting beaten, taken on. Then he got sent off as well. He was a big money signing to replace Milinkovic. Very worrying debut from Pongracic. But I mean, Fiorentina,
but I do want to say, when we did see Kayode and Parisi come on,
they look better.
They look much better, and Palladino's not an idiot, so he will have noticed that, and I think he will adjust accordingly. So that's good.
Let's hope so, because it was a bit of an insult, bit of a kick in the teeth, isn't it, for Parisi being left out for the teenager for Comuzzo, wasn't it? It was and again, that's something that Nicola Mizul told us on his podcast, that Palladino isn't quite happy with Parisi for what he's seen of him so far. So So yeah, Empoli 0, Monza 0. Terrible game. We'll talk about that on Serie Ass of the week. Bologna 1, Udinese 1. How Bologna didn't win this game, I have no idea. They had an XG of like 3.6 in this game. Chance after chance after chance. So that
the Vincenzo Italiano syndrome.
Forward curse continues to not taking their chances. Yes. So that's a good result for Udinese. But Bologna had so many opportunities in this game. And as I said before, we're recording this before the games on Monday. Lecce, Atalanta, Juventus, Como. We will review these two games on our midweek show, which I think we'll probably do on Wednesday, just to make it put it a little bit closer to the games. So we'll review those games along with like all the transfer stuff. There's going to be lots of transfer news and transfers being completed in the next few days. So we'll talk about that as well. But Nima, before we finish with Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week, we have to talk about the Serie A TV rights scandal, because it is a scandal. I mean, this crisis has plumbed to new depths. A new Serie A season has begun, and there are numerous big markets internationally, big countries around the world who don't have TV rights for Serie A, and it is absolutely shocking. There's lots of anger around the world among Italian football fans. I've just been speaking to a lot of fans and a lot of people from those markets.
Some of them now have it because lots of
lots of last minute deals, which I'll come to. I mean, 48 hours before the season started, here are some of the big countries that did not have TV rights. India, home to 1.4 billion people. Indonesia, 375 million people. Australia, with a huge Italian population. Malaysia, France, most of Scandinavia, Austria, Hungary, Nigeria, Morocco, much of South America, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Barbados. I mean, I could go on and on.
That's like 2 billion people. That's over 2 billion people that can't. It's just.
I could go on and on and on. As Nima said, though, Serie A managed to do some last-minute deals, which I frankly was very surprised on, considering it's Ferragosto, and usually Italians, let alone Italians at the Lega Serie A, usually you don't hear from them for days or weeks when it's Ferragosto. So I'm frankly surprised that they managed to close some of these last-minute deals. Australia, apparently they closed 4 hours before the season started.
Australia and New Zealand, that is, yeah.
Yes, Australia and New Zealand. India secured a frankly embarrassing deal from what I've been told, speaking to Italian journalists, football journalists in India, with an online esports company to show Serie A matches online, but they can only watch the games online on computer, only on computer. There's no working app yet. And the deal came so late that basically the company, through no fault of their own, really, were not ready. They're not ready for it. So there's nothing.
They did, yeah, exactly.
There's nothing on TV. Apparently, the first games, lots of complaints about quality and sound. A couple of the games, apparently, I found this hilarious. There was double commentary on the game. So somehow, how is that even possible? Like double commentary, and that was from Calcio Chacha, who are great guys.
I love that.
I love them. They were making fun of it.
Of course they were. It's hilarious,
which is brilliant. I also like that Poland. I was speaking to a journalist, Marcin, lovely guy who covers Serie A in Poland. He sent me a voice note saying that Poland has the first match day, but nobody knows if they will have anything else for the rest of the season. It's unclear if they have the rights after that. I don't know how the hell that works out, how you can have match rights for the first day of the season.
Well, I can tell you how. What they've done with the UK is and Northern Ireland is very instructive of how they do deals. It's like the UK deal is just a joke. They've turned the Serie A rights into some sort of a cow that's been slaughtered, where the prime cuts go to TNT, the 2 games a week, and then the rest is on One Football. But some of it is free, some of it you have to pay for. Nobody knows how much and where.
That's an OTT as well. That's over the top. It means basically online. Like it's online streaming. Yeah, online. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
Well, it's unclear actually. Nobody actually knows with that either, because that was secured a few hours before the season started as well. and it's free for the first weekend. So that those 8 matches that you said are free. Everybody can watch them online, but nobody knows yet, as far as I know, what will be the cost afterwards. Will you have to? I mean, it seems like it's because the other 2 games this weekend, the ones that are on TNT, so the Inter Genoa game and the Roma Cagliari game, you could buy them on football for $4.99. So it's unclear whether I would imagine, because they're going to have to make their money back somehow, that people are going to have to pay for this. It's not going to be free from match day 2 onwards. Will it be pay-per-view? That seems to be the suggestion. It's going to be pay-per-view. But nobody knows right now. Maybe it will be.
But then they have to do, like, they can't just charge people per game. They need to create a season pass or something like that.
You would think
it's ridiculous.
so, because it'd be too expensive, and no one's gonna pay for that either.
Yeah, of course they're not.
So yeah, I mean, I watched a couple of games on football. The Fiorentina game, first game, Fiorentina I had on. There was no commentary in the first half, but the commentary suddenly appeared in the second half. And then I was watching a bit of the Roma game, and it was free. It was freezing a little bit. It kept freezing now and again, as well. I mean, that could just be growing pains first week, all that kind of stuff. With a streaming network.
The Serie. I don't know.
They need that. I mean, we know that.
Did you watch?
Did you watch? It didn't happen with DAZN. I know DAZN. It's
no. Did you? Yeah, I was going to say. Did you watch Milan Torino in the middle of the second half when it went blank?
On what network was this?
Well, it was the Serie A that went blank.
Oh,
they were the ones producing it, or the DAZN, or whoever's producing. It just said test or whatever. It was great, and I thought it was just me, but I saw online that everyone watching was like, "What just happened?"
DAZN has been a running joke. I mean, that's again on Serie A. I mean, everybody makes fun of it in Italy all the time.
So I don't know who's producing it.
Cazon, they call it, don't they? CAZN.
Cazon.
I mean, but I mean, yeah. So I mean, we'll see what happens with the UK. But the point is that this has just been so badly handled, the whole team. But
Sweden.
We don't know the value. We don't know the value of the deals either.
Sweden has one. Norway, it's only on. I think you can go on. It's a newspaper. It's a national newspaper that's bought the rights, only streaming online. But Sweden, it's the network that's had it for the last year or so that are going to have it for the next 2 seasons. They closed that the day before. Yeah, it's not been handled well.
It's been handled terribly, and obviously there's the value of the deals as well, which is important. That is probably it's the most important in terms of finances, but also, as has been, we've said so many times before, it's not just about going for the best financial deal, because you have to be able to sell to someone who can put on has a good product, and because that's what helps to market and grow the league. And if you sell to someone who can't put on a good show, then you're actually, which is what happened in India in some of the last recent rights cycles, in the last one, in that nobody was actually able to watch the game and it wasn't promoted, and then really you're not growing the league, are you? So there's a lot of variables there, but just so everybody understands, because I did put out a tweet on Thursday which went viral, and there's a lot of anger about how badly this has been handled. Who handles the international TV rights sales? So basically, the Lega Serie A and a sports marketing agency called Infront Sports, the way it has been handled in recent years is they divide the selling and negotiating of TV rights between them. Now, the Lega Serie A generally takes care, or has until now, taken care of the big markets like the US, MENA, which is the Middle East and North Africa, the UK, as far as I understand. Infront Sports until now generally have done much of the rest of the world, including the Asian market. Now, my understanding is that they are now working more closely together since Anna Guarnerio, who is the head of international TV rights at Lega Serie A, since she became the head of international TV rights there for over 20 years. Before that, she was at Infront. So the two organisations basically work together. The buck stops with Anna, of course, and it's been terribly, terribly handled. Terribly handled. And,
that's a title, isn't it?
Yeah.
She's the head of international TV rights at Lega Serie A.
Yeah. I've been speaking to a lot of people, and I've been told that the Lega only started talks over, I'm not going to name the country because I don't want to give away my sources, but I've been told that the league only started talks over a few of these big countries, which I've listed before, a few of the bigger markets, 3 weeks ago. Anna herself, that is. So, I'm not, again, I don't want to put it all on Anna because I know there are cultural issues, which we'll come to in a minute, but that is embarrassing. Why are you starting to negotiate TV rights 3 weeks before the season starts? Why so late? Why didn't you do it months ago? Why didn't you do it at the start of the year?
They didn't even do it with their biggest prized asset, which they love the most, the Americans that are going to save us. They didn't start that. When did that deal become clear?
I'm not sure. But
was it a week ago? Like maybe 5 days ago, 4 days ago? I mean, this is what they do.
Yeah,
it's always last minute deals. And from what I've heard and understood, CBS basically told them we're not paying you what you want, and they got whatever they wanted.
Financially, it was a terrible deal. I know there are reasons for that. The whole climate, and I don't want to sit here and criticize the Americans. I actually think when it comes to marketing, what they do, even the guys at CBS, I think that they do as good a job at any at trying to actually market the league, trying to actually.
I disagree with that.
Well, no, what I mean by marketing.
We
can talk about how they do it and whether you like it, but in terms of actually putting themselves out there.
Do you reach new audiences or not with your marketing, or do you keep preaching to the choir? That's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in growing. I'm interested in talking and finding new audiences that you retain. That to me is successful marketing.
Yeah.
Preaching to the choir over and over and over again to people who already love the Serie A because they have a cultural, historical family heritage. That is good because you need to keep your base happy. Like when we interviewed the CEO of Serie A in North America, that's great. I'm not interested in the base. I'm in because you've got the base and you need to take care of them. You need to respect them. All of that is true. What I'm interested in is how are you going to reach new audiences?
Yes, I know.
And the answer to that has been to pay lots of money to bringing these idiots who cook naked, who cook Italian food naked, or I Show Speed, who plays the whoever talks is gay game with Zlatan. That is the strategy, apparently. That seems to be the tone of what they're going after.
Yeah, that's
pathetic.
It is pathetic.
It's not. It's
that's
beyond
another talking
pathetic.
point. What I meant was that at least that they are making noise. Let's say, whereas in these other markets.
Well, when people make noise that no one wants to hear, then it's essentially yelling into the ether. That's my point.
No.
What is your strategy to reach new markets and to retain them? Not just flash in the pan a bunch of likes on Instagram. No, what is your long-term strategy and short-term strategy to grow the popularity of the Serie A in the United States and Canada? Because I believe firmly that this people like Italy. It's one of the few things most people on this planet agree on is that Italy is a place that most people have a very positive connotation to when they think of Italy, whether it's the food, the weather, the history, the fashion, the music, all of these things, and the football.
I agree with you. What I'm saying is I'm talking about, first of all, I'm talking about the whole process here. I'm talking about selling the rights, actually getting the rights done, and then those markets actually being able to actually at least be visible. Let's say in these, like in India, for example, they're not visible. There's no visibility at all. So whether you agree with how, let's for example, CBS do things, what their whole marketing strategy and all that. That's another talking point. That's further down the line. At least they're visible. At least there's visibility. At least they're trying to make some noise. That's what I'm saying. I'm talking at that start of the stage process. Then there's another talking point further down the line. How the whole that's what I'm saying.
The bar is so
low. Yes, the bar is low.
The bar is so low. It is literally
put it this way,
the souls of Satan's feet in hell.
Nima, the Australia TV rights are sold 4 hours. By then, most of the I know lots of people in Australia. By then, most of the people, and we'll come to Pyro soon. Most of the Italian football fans have already gone out and bought IPTV boxes.
Well, of course they have,
because they want to watch the games. It's too late. 4 hours before, so they've already lost those. But that's Malaysia. I've been told they started a few weeks ago. to talk about. I've got a really good friend that lives in Malaysia, who moved out there with his wife, Italian, from Bedford. He's the guy that remember I went to the 2006 World Cup with, who missed 3 of Italy's goals during the tournament because I wouldn't let him watch the corner kicks.
Is that the poor guy you terrorized in 2006?
Yes. He's the one that I demanded not watch the corner.
Yeah, because
against
Czech, against the Czech Republic.
Yeah, because I said that Italy would score if he didn't watch, and they did. And then I wouldn't let him watch. You
are a menace.
I wouldn't let him watch.
I wouldn't
let him watch the Totti goal.
You ruined the World Cup for him. That's what you did.
Well, yeah, but we won it. We won the World Cup, so it was better, isn't it? I mean, he could have watched it, and we then went out. You know, he could have watched the Totti penalty against Australia, and we missed it, and we went out. So
it has no correlation. Literally no correlation.
Well, I stopped him from watching the Pirlo corner, which led to the Grosso goal as well.
You are a terrorist.
He missed 3 goals. He missed 3 goals in the tournament. Anyway, he lives in Malaysia.
He moved to Malaysia to get away from you.
I mean, his name's Giuseppe. He lives in Malaysia, and they still don't have the rights. They are furious, and it's a massive Italian football population.
Indonesia is the biggest Islamic country in the world. A lot of people don't know that, but it's the biggest. There's lots of people who live there, and they don't. They don't have the right. From what I understand, as of today when we're recording, there's no rights. No,
they are absolutely furious.
The Inter Club of Indonesia has I don't know how many hundreds of sub chapters. They have 80,000 members, paying members, something like that. That's just Inter. The Milan, Juve, and then it's.
I've actually got a quote here, and I'm going to read it out because Giuseppe asked me. It's from his friend Charanjit Singh, who is the head of the official Juve, always one of the main guys of the official Juve fan club Malaysia, which is absolutely huge, just like the Inter.
They're massive.
But you said, and I read out his quote because he asked if I could. He said, "Look, my message to Infront and the idiots running the TV rights distribution: you are the reason Serie A is called the Farmers League, as they can't even get their act together and leave huge swathes of Serie A fans in Asia in a lurch. Pretty soon, we will share similarities with the Eredivisie, Turkish Super League, and the Portuguese League." I mean, they are absolutely furious.
Of course they are.
And rightly so. And I think that one of the reasons absolutely is the Lega spent so much time worrying about America, thinking America is going to save us. and even then, the deal that they did with CBS, there are reasons why it's so low, but the deal financially is really not good. And we don't even know what the financial figures are of these last-minute deals they've done. They're probably not very good either, I would imagine. And then, that plummeted from the last deal. So, why on earth they spent all that time worrying on America when they didn't even get a good deal? And then, all these other big markets, they only started 3 weeks ago. I mean, the Premier League, the Bundesliga, which are competently run organisations, they started these talks, secured these deals months ago. Beginning of the year, they would be starting talks for the new rights cycle. You don't start 3 weeks before the season starts. I mean, it's just embarrassing. And that's why I say they cannot sell life jackets on the Titanic. Serie A cannot sell life jackets on the Titanic.
No, they can't. They're awful. They're awful at it.
And it's time to name. It's time to name and shame them. I'm sorry. I know. Some people that have ties to Serie A were a little bit unhappy that I named Anna Guarnerio, but I'm sorry. But the problem is that, first of all, the buck stops with her. She is the head. She's the head of international TV rights. She needs to be answerable. She should be explaining herself. The problem that we have in Italy, with Italian football, with Serie A, is that when there are these fuck ups, when there are these scandals, there's no one ever comes out, and there's no names, there's no faces.
No, there's no accountability.
It's always just Serie A is a joke, or Gravina is a joke. Yeah. It's just, that's it. Gravina gets it all, and I'm not saying that he's any good either, but it's always just Gravina. It's just the Serie A as a whole. It's just Italy as a country. We need to name. I mean, it is a cultural problem as well. There's no doubt about it. But we need to start naming names. Anna Guarnerio, answer yourself. What is going on? Why the hell is this such a mess? And others as well. Like, we always make fun of them of the marketing. The marketing is a joke in Serie A. It's a complete and utter joke. Just look at the Twitter account and the absolute, just listen to our Serie Ass of the week every week and see that the fuck-ups that go on social media when they're marketing, it's just embarrassing. Michele Ciccarese is the commercial and marketing director. I've been told by a few people, right, he's one of the main men. I've been told by a few people, he's always in New York, he's always in the Middle East, he's always rubbing shoulders with all the former players, and he does nothing. His job is to commercially grow the league outside of Italy. How does he commercially grow the league? And he goes, and everybody goes boasting that they're conquering America, they're conquering the world. The head of social media and all the goons working for them. I want to know who the name is. I want to know who is the person responsible for these people on social media that embarrass the league every single week with someone. Last week, what did they do last week, Nima?
In the middle of when there's hardly any rights sold to 2 billion people on Earth, they go talking about how piracy kills football. Like, there's being tone deaf, and then there's being, I don't know what that is.
No, that was their campaign for match day 1 and match day 2 of Serie A. You see it before the games. Piracy kills football in Italian. I mean, a piracy campaign when you haven't sold any TV rights. I mean, you've just got to laugh. Well, what are the pirates stealing? There's nothing to steal.
Yeah, you haven't sold it.
You haven't sold anything. I mean, it's what it's like. It's like I was thinking, it's like a farmer blaming like insects for destroying his crops when he never gives any of the crops any fertilizer or any sunlight or any water, moisture. They're never going to grow. And then you blame the insects for
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it's like.
No,
and then of course Serie A becomes a farmers' league. There we go.
Nice little. Yeah, you came full circle there.
Yeah.
No, but I agree with that. I agree with everything you said there. And I think that it's not just the appointments and the people in charge. I think there needs to be accountability across the board. And I think when you look at how the Bundesliga handles themselves and how they systematically... what I love about German football is how rational they are and how bluntly matter-of-fact they are about the facts. They know their place in the food chain. They want to grow. They set up realistic targets long term, and then they try to build towards that, and then they move the entire German ecosystem towards that, from stadiums to... And this is in a league where it's fan owned. Like, most of the clubs are not businesses. They're owned by the community still. And you look at how... I mean, just look at the production quality of a Bundesliga game. They're in 2024. Italy's in 1984.
Yeah.
And then you look at...
Wasn't there a massive technical error before the Inter game as well, like to start the season?
Yeah.
There was a delay of like 3 minutes.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, and then the referee couldn't get the VAR thing to... I mean, it was whatever.
And the goal line technology wasn't working for the Milan game as well. With the goal that got given apparently as well. Luckily they made the right decision, but But anyway, that's another talking point altogether.
But yeah, no, it's stuff like this that is so easily sorted that they just don't have the infrastructure in place to take care of. And the reason why we're naming people is because somewhere the buck has to stop. This is something that I find utterly astonishing with Italian media, is that nobody is talking about this. They only talk about the domestic rights. They don't... It's as if, like, there is a world out there. You're competing on a global scale. You're not just competing with the Premier League in Italy. You're competing with the Premier League everywhere, and everyone else everywhere. And so that's where, they don't talk about this, and it needs to be talked about. And we know why it's not talked about, because you risk pissing off a lot of powerful people, and they don't want to. They'd rather ignore it and silence it to death.
No, and they're just working for themselves as well. That's what they're working for. It's
exhausting that it's exhausting that they don't do that, because that this is not a bigger scandal. Because I mean, I'll tell you this much: if the Premier League failed to secure rights abroad in big markets and had to resort to this, there would be an absolute scandal.
No.
The British media would be all over it. No. And I'm not saying the British media are any better, but they would be slaughtering them, the FA, for this.
Oh, and heads would roll as well.
Heads would roll. People would have to resign. Yeah. You'd see organizational changes. You'd see structural change because it's a cash cow that brings in lots of revenue and tax revenue. It's part of the global branding of England as in the world. And so it's important for them to maintain that a good service level and a good quality,
exactly,
right?
and then that comes all down to the finances, and that's why Serie A teams have no money, and that's why we don't buy any players. I mean, that's the last. We're just really more talking about serving your fans, allow them to
You can't even do that.
actually be able to watch the games. Are we
You
able to
don't.
allow our fans to watch the actual matches? Forget about the money.
Yeah, no, seriously. Like,
And
we're
then
not
they
even
talk about
talking.
piracy. They say that piracy is killing football. I mean, it's just
No, it's
could make it
piracy is not killing football when you can't even sell the rights. Like, what are you talking about? What are you on about? You can't even shore up your own base. The people who love your league, who will watch your league no matter what. You can't even get your product to them. That is the level we're talking about here. Then we can talk about long-term, growth and reaching new audiences. But you can't even preach to the converted. You can't even sell the product to the people who want your product globally. It's
insane. It's insane. But yeah, let's see. I'd be very interested to see what the financial numbers are on these deals when they eventually come out. Let's finish off though with Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. So Baggio, I don't know whether this should really be called a Baggio. I don't want to be like promoting kind of fan insults, but I'm sorry. There's
I'm
something about the
sorry.
Napoli Verona rivalry
I
that I
love
love.
it.
Yeah,
Me too. I absolutely love this rivalry between the fans. But and the fact that they use Shakespearean references. This is not the first time we've seen Napoli fans and insult Verona fans by using Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. This latest one, I was cry laughing. Romeo knows Juliet from OnlyFans. It's a banner. Like, I'm sorry.
It's brilliant, isn't it? They always find a new way to insult Juliet. That's what's so fantastic about it. Every single time.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, these are fictional characters that don't exist. It's a Shakespeare play, right? And it's like it's so funny. And lots of other things as well, like this weekend. With just the memes online, like it is so inappropriate.
Cherby and Bisek was one which we can't share.
No, we can't. No, it's just. But it was just. It's so out there. It's so unhinged. It's so crazy. Lazio and Verona being topping the Serie A league with that meme of Mussolini and Hitler. It's just. I'm sorry because of course Verona's fans, ultras are Nazis and Lazio's are historically fascist. It's just, this is just Calcio Twitter in its nutshell. It is just on fire. This is match day one. And the memes and the way that they take the piss out of each other is just, it's completely, they just go after each other in the most funniest ways ever and the most unhinged ways ever. There's no, it's just unhinged, and therefore it's by definition sometimes very, very funny.
Yeah,
and this last weekend it's just been, I've just been laughing so much.
Yeah. And Juventus are yet to play yet as well, so just wait until Juventus play.
We're just in match day one.
Well, I'm just waiting for Juventus.
Roma fans. I mean,
I'm waiting for the Allegri memes when Juventus slip up.
It
probably won't happen against Como, but when it does, there's going to be something.
But and also the self-deprecation too. Like, that's what I like. I mean, the Roma fan who made an AI image of Dobby the house elf from Harry Potter and called him Dobby Bick of Artem Dovbik, and it made a me. I mean, it's just, I don't even know. Like,
oh no, this is what we love about Serie A for sure. Premface and Serie Ass of the week. I have a combined one for Premface. Do you have any other Premfaces?
No, yeah. Did you look it up? Did Paul Scholes really compare?
Oh, yes, he did. Yeah.
Did he actually do that?
Yes, I believe he did. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. That to me is just, I don't even know.
Yeah, he called Kobe Manu Manchester United Zinedine Zidane. He's the nearest I've seen to Zidane. But he also sucked his daughter's toe, didn't he? So I mean,
can we never? You
shouldn't-
promised we would never talk about it.
Okay.
Like you promised we would never ever bring that up ever again.
Yeah. But the point
Okay.
is, we shouldn't be surprised. That's what I mean.
Speaking of memes, the funniest thing, the most disgusting meme about that was when Rio Ferdinand was in the hospital and took a photo of himself lying in a hospital bed, and someone cut in Paul Scholes. It's the most disturbing thing I've seen on the internet. It was just, yeah. Anyway.
Says he doesn't want to talk about it, then proceeds to talk
Yeah,
about it.
yeah, but I'm not going to see him suffer alone.
Right. The Serie Ass of the week. So first of all, one that we already mentioned. So Serie A Twitter getting the Milan title year on. They did a list ahead of the new season, listing the most recent Serie A champions. Somehow they had Napoli winning the 2022 Scudetto and Milan winning the 2023 Scudetto. So they got Napoli and Milan the wrong way round. But the other Serie Ass of the week, this is just shocking.
Parma as well. The Parma pitch was atrocious as well.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't as bad as the Empoli Monza pitch. I mean, Empoli have actually apologised with a statement, but the Empoli Monza pitch was a potato field. And again, coming back to farmers, but the playing surface, it was cutting up so much. There was just chunks flying around the pitch every single time someone kicked the ball. It was like you didn't know whether you were following the ball or the pitch. Like it was just unbelievable. I mean, but also seriously, really dangerous. We're talking about ACLs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just disgraceful. But what? I mean, again, sums up Serie A where we're at. I mean, we've got playing surfaces from the 1970s here.
I want to,
Can I just add to this, though, Nima, that Empoli's statement was hilarious as well. Their excuse was that they didn't have time to treat the pitch. That was their excuse.
There was no time. What can you possibly be doing as an Empoli groundskeeper?
That there was
so busy.
There was a match there at the beginning of June, and because of that, they didn't have time. Beginning of June, Italy played there at the beginning of June.
I love this.
July, August. So you've had 2 months since that Italy game.
Yeah, but everyone's been on holiday. You just look at, like, this is the thing that
Ferragosto, come on. I mean,
no, it's not just Ferragosto. Like, I got to tell you, the thing that I love the most, like nothing, like you, like this is to put it into context. You have a Mercato show, okay? Gianluca Di Marzio has a Mercato show on Sky every summer. Well, I say every summer with an asterisk, because the whole purpose of this Mercato show surely is to be open and broadcast when the Mercato is open. He does 2.5 weeks in June, then he's off on holiday for all of July, and then he comes back in August, break for Ferragosto, and then like what? It's hilarious. It's unbelievably hilarious to me. Like, it's just, you have a transfer window show that's where you don't broadcast for a third of it because you're on holiday, because it's July. It's so good. I just love this Italian mentality, and of course that's what happened at Empoli. The groundskeeper was on his holiday. You can't break that. He probably, and he deserves it too. He's probably really hard working. I'm not having a knock, like criticizing him for having a holiday. Well, but what I'm saying is you should be able to sort this out. Like, do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I just want to also, as a Baggio of the week, Dennis Mann, Parma winger. I think he's going to have a fantastic season.
He's a lovely player. I love watching him.
Me too. And I think he's going to be. He's one of my. As always, after the Mercato, I'm going to give my final predictions for the Serie A. But he's one of my breakout stars of the Serie A this season. I think he's going to be. I haven't decided between him and a couple of others, but he's definitely up there. Mm. He's quite the attraction to watch, and I think he's going to be the next big star that everyone's going to fight over.
Yeah, I like watching him. Very elegant, lovely left foot, and a great goal as well. Okay, right, let's leave it at that. First weekend of the season, and so much to talk about, both good and bad. It was certainly we couldn't have picked a better first weekend, I don't think, in terms of doing a show afterwards, could we? I mean, it was amazing, amazing, and we still got two big games, and there will be lots to talk about with Atalanta and Juventus. Juventus because it's Juventus, and also because of all the transfer stuff, but Atalanta as well because of all the stuff that's going on with Lookman now demanding a transfer. We'll see how that develops in the next 2 days, but it is fast turning into an absolute disaster of a summer for Atalanta if they lose him as well. So we'll have lots to talk about with Atalanta. We'll see what happens, and we hope obviously that he somehow stays at the club. Okay, right. Until next time.
We'll be back tomorrow for the Q&A.
The Q&A on Tuesday,
yeah. And then, of course, on Wednesday, we will be doing a review of the 2 games that we didn't talk about tonight, and also previewing the weekend and all the other talking points. We'll be looking to do before the we're going to do things a little bit different in the sense that if it's not a Champions League week or a European Cup week, we'll be trying to do the Thursday pod on a Wednesday.
If there's games, if there's games, if there's Serie A games to talk about,
exactly. Otherwise, we'll doing it on Thursday.
Yeah.
But it's only for patrons only, and I have to say we've never had as many patrons as we have right now, which is really, really fun. Our listenership, we've never had an audience as big as the one that we have right now, both the free and the Patreon one, and it's really, really encouraging. And thank you to everyone who has signed up, who is sending us messages, questions, sharing on social media, on YouTube, free, whether it's your paid subscriber.
Thank you. I mean, they've got to follow their Serie A somewhere, Nim, haven't they? I mean, they can't watch the games, so I mean, they have to listen, don't they?
Mad.
Maybe we should buy the TV rights.
Yeah, I was just going to say, why don't we?
Do you reckon we can afford it? I mean,
why not? Can make it part of the Patreon plan.
Yeah,
monthly one. So thank you to everyone who does that, and we really appreciate it. And it's incredibly humbling and an honor to have your that you believe in us and that you follow us and that you like what we do and you keep sharing and subscribing, and we're really grateful to you, and we're hoping to have we want to have the greatest season we have and we hope that you enjoy this journey with us, that you've embarked with us. So thank you, and we'll be back we'll be back on Tuesday for the Q&A, which is only for patrons, and after that on Wednesday for a midweek review show. So until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Ciao.